Okay, we're going to some live pictures now of John Kerry in Paris. Let's listen in.
And a few days later, we are facing this terrible, this tragedy, these terrorist attacks in the airport of Brussels and in the center of Brussels in the subway. We have had the opportunity this morning with John Kerry to discuss the fight against terrorism. How is it possible to do better? How is it possible to work together in order to be more efficient? It's also important to look at this issue on the European level in the fight against terrorism, in the fight against radicalism. Je vais maintenant m'exprimer en français et je sais que John Kerry comprend et parle français en vous indiquant que nous sommes convaincus aussi qu'à côté des efforts qui peuvent être réalisés pour tenter d'élever les niveaux de sécurité partout dans le monde.
Because I know that John Kerry speaks French.
C'est aussi important de voir sur le plan géopolitique, sur le plan
we are
international.
convinced that thanks to all the efforts to improve security everywhere in the world, in Europe and in Belgium, it's very important to see how we can play a good and efficient role with the United States to be part of a coalition fighting against Daesh. You know that Belgium last year decided to invest more money in a defense plan because we want to be part of the alliance, of the NATO alliance, and play our role in that. You know as well that we've got a special agreement with Holland, and we will have this debate within the government and in the parliament to decide whether we're going to extend our mandate. We are convinced that the security challenge is a challenge to defend our common values. Europe and the United States are big democracies and they are sharing those values, diversity, freedom of speech. We share those same values and we think we have to defend them. And we want to state once again that we are sharing those values, that the alliance between Europe and the United States has always been strong. And us Europeans, us Belgium, we have to be part of this partnership to defend those values.
Of these attacks in Brussels. J'ai aussi eu l'occasion d'exprimer au nom du gouvernement toute notre sympathie pour les victimes de nationalité américaine au travers de ces tragiques événements. Voilà quelques éléments que je voulais indiquer, encore une fois. Votre présence ici à Bruxelles, quelques jours
to express my sympathy to all the victims and their families, including American victims. That's what I wanted to state. Your presence here, Mr. Kerry, here a couple of days after those attacks, is really a sign of the friendship between the US and Belgium.
Een laatste woord in het Nederlands. We zijn bijzonder tevreden met de aanwezigheid van John Kerry hier in Brussel vandaag. Dat is een teken van een sterke politieke en diplomatieke relatie tussen de Verenigde Staten en ons land, België, in onze geschiedenis. Deze relatie is cruciaal geweest en vandaag in een moeilijk moment voor ons land, in een moeilijk moment voor Europa, Brussel, hoofdstad van Europa, een aanwezigheid van John Kerry, dat is een zeer sterk signaal, een zeer sterk teken. Wij willen samenwerken, wij willen hard samenwerken, ons best doen om efficiënt te werken, om resultaten te boeken, de veiligheid van onze medeburgers te verdedigen, te steunen, maar zeker ook, wij willen alles doen om onze fundamentele democratische waarden te verdedigen.
Okay, a conference there with John Kerry, obviously talking about the security challenge that Europe faces, not only Belgium and France, and also...
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, and good afternoon.
John Kerry now.
I want to begin by thanking Prime Minister Michel for his remarks, and especially for his leadership in this challenging moment. And I'm pleased to be here also with my friend and counterpart, Didier Reynders, the Foreign Minister of Belgium. On behalf of President Obama and all of the American people, I offer our deepest condolences to the people of Belgium and to all of the families, all those individuals who have suffered an inconceivable loss in the last few days. The United States, I want you to know, is praying and grieving with you for the loved ones of those who have been very cruelly taken from us, including Americans, and for the many who were injured in these despicable attacks. As I told Foreign Minister Reynders on Tuesday when we talked by telephone, the United States stands firmly behind Belgium and with the nations of Europe in the face of this tragedy. We join you in thanking the very brave first responders who rushed to the scene on a moment's notice in order to care for the wounded and to save lives. And we will continue to provide any assistance necessary in investigating these heinous acts of terrorism and bringing those responsible to justice. In America, we remember very clearly how, in the days after 9/11, Belgians and other Europeans came together in this city, around the events of the World Trade Center. And you showed your solidarity with us, with the victims in New York and Washington and Pennsylvania. And then voices all across Europe declared, "Je suis américain." So now we declare, "Je suis bruxellois, ich bin Brüssel." Those whose lives were torn apart this week were not combatants in any kind of conflict. They posed no threat. They wished no one any harm. They were simply going about their lives. Airport and subway workers, a Peruvian mother of twins who was training to be a chef, an American personal trainer flying home for Easter, an Indian employee of a high-tech firm, Mormon missionaries, public servants, teachers, tourists. Contrast these good people, innocent people, with the twisted killers who planted the bombs, terrorists whose sole aim was to kill and maim and sow fear. There, in the sharpest relief possible, we see in that the difference between life and death, between decency and evil, and between civilization and those who revel in destruction. We, all of us, representing countless nationalities, have a message for those who inspired or carried out the attacks here, or in Paris, or in Ankara, in Tunis, San Bernardino, or elsewhere. We will not be intimidated. We will not be deterred. And we will come back with greater resolve, with greater strength, and we will not rest until we have eliminated your nihilistic beliefs and cowardice from the face of this earth. Daesh has claimed responsibilities for these attacks, but there is not a government on earth that supports the terrorists of Daesh, not one. In fact, a coalition of 66 nations, including Belgium, stands united against them. And the very reason that Daesh is resorting to actions outside of the Middle East is that its fantasy of a caliphate is collapsing before their eyes. Its territory is shrinking every day. Its leaders are being decimated. Its revenue sources are dwindling, and its fighters are fleeing. So, as we have said many times, President Obama, myself, and others, our mission to defeat and destroy Daesh is not going to be accomplished overnight. It's going to take some time and patience and persistence. It will require resources and commitment and cooperation across many cultures and beliefs, and the recognition that this is, in fact, truly a global challenge. But I am absolutely confident that we will be successful. And there are so many measurable ways in which we have already been rising to meet this particular challenge. It's also important that we respond to the killer's inhumanity by underscoring our own basic decency and humanity ourselves. We should learn from the example of an American doctor, Laura Billet, who had just left the airport here in Brussels when she and a friend heard the bombs go off. She ran to a nearby police station and started to triage victims. She tended to any victims who came through the door, doing what she could to treat shrapnel wounds, burns, and other injuries that she'd never seen before. She had a few supplies, very few, but that didn't matter to her. There are people hurt, she said, and I'm going to help these people. I am going to help these people. No statement could be simpler, and yet no statement could really be more powerful. No commitment could be more directly opposite to what Daesh and similar groups represent. Mr. Prime Minister, your nation has suffered a cruel and unfair tragedy this week. People are hurt, but we are all of us going to help. No act of terror can undermine the foundation of our friendship or the values that define our alliance. Our fundamental openness, tolerance, and diversity, our pursuit of justice, our dedication to preserving the blessings of freedom for ourselves, our children, and generations to come. On Tuesday, lives were viciously cut short, and hundreds were injured. It is with irreplaceable loss in mind that we will renew our vow to come together against a common enemy in order to keep our people safe. And it is with their memory in our hearts that we must always stand in solidarity as friends, as allies, and partners. Ce mardi, vies furent fauchées de manière vicieuse et de centaines de personnes furent blessées.
On Tuesday, hundreds
C'est en pensant à ces pertes
got wounded, and while thinking about all these lives who have been lost, I think we should reunite against our common enemy to protect our population. I remember this person who just lost their life.
Speaking there, obviously discussing the security challenge that Europe is facing at the moment. Also talking about the Schengen zone and the need for building solidarity in order to fight against Daesh and protect the people. More